Chapter 9. Hypothesis Testings. The purposes of hypothesis testing is that we need to prove that our data is good first. We need to prove that our data is significant before we can actually use it for analytical purposes. And in hypothesis testing, we have our null hypothesis, H0, and we have our alternative hypothesis, H1. Null hypothesis is our original situation, our status quo, and then we have alternative hypothesis, H1, which is the opposite of the null hypothesis. And the H1 challenges the status quo. So H1 is what we want to prove. And before we prove anything, we have to assume that the original situation is true. So H null is our original situation. We have to assume that is true at the beginning, and then H1 is what we want to prove. So in the previous chapter, we introduced the three situations. The mean with the sigma known, so the mean with the population standard deviation known. So that's the first situation. The second situation is the mean with population standard deviation unknown. So when we don't have the population standard deviations, so when we don't have sigma, then we have the sample standard deviations. So that's the second situation. And the last situation is proportion, which is when we're given a percentage or when we're given two numbers and we know that we need to divide them to get a percent. So those were the three situations that we went through in the previous chapter. And what is new about chapter 9 is that in addition to asking the question, which situation are you in? Now you need to ask one more question. So you need to ask two questions in total. First question is, which situation are you in? And the three situations are the mean with sigma known, the mean with sigma unknown, and proportion. Those are the three situations. And you need to identify which situation you're in. That's the first question that you need to ask. And the second question that you need to ask, this is what is new, is that you need to know which testing you're dealing with. There are three testings, two-tail testings, one tail greater than, and one tail less than. So those are the three testings that you have. And how you know which testing you're dealing with is you need to look for the keywords. You need to know what you want to prove. So under the testing where we have two-tail testings, we're looking for, is there a difference? That's the keyword. Is there a difference? Are they equal or are they not equal? And when we're dealing with the one tail greater than testing, we're looking for the keyword, has it increased or has it not increased? And the last testing is one tail less than. And what we're trying to prove is that, has it decreased or not? That's what we're trying to prove. So when you're asking yourself which testing you're dealing with, you need to look for the keywords. And when you're looking at the three testings and you look at H1, you will see that the H1 never contains the equal sign. So for two tails, it contains the not equal sign. For one tail greater than, it contains the greater than sign. And the one tail less than, for one tail less than, it contains the less than sign. So it never contains the equal sign. And then you will see that H null always contains the equal sign is because this is the status quo. And the reason why you need to know which testing you're dealing with is because when you're calculating the critical value and p-value, you need to know what value you need to put into the formula and what steps you need to do to calculate the value. So that's why you need to know which testing you're dealing with, because each testings will have different values that you need to put in and they have different steps. As for the first question, which situation you're in, the reason why you need to know which situation you're in is because you need to calculate the test statistics, you need to calculate the critical value, and you need to calculate the p-value when you're looking at hypothesis testings. And each of these situations will have different formulas to calculate the test statistics, critical value, and p-value. So that's why you need to know which situation you're in so that you can use the correct formula. So in summary, you have two questions that you need to ask. First question is which situation you're in. The reason you need to know which situation you're in is because you need to know which formula to use to calculate the test statistics, critical value, and p-value. And there are three situations and they all have different formulas. And for the second question, which testing are you dealing with? And the reason why you need to know which testing you're dealing with is so that you can use the correct value and steps to calculate the critical value and p-value. So that's why you need to know the two questions.